It's a playoff time yet. Can we get the playoffs started? Uh, it is a locker room number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me here throughout the week. I'm on the road one last day. I'll be back tomorrow, final day of 2024. And I kind of want to hop into the 2024 situation and just kind of where we are right now, looking at this team as compared to where we were last year. And I want to ask the question, um, is apathy returning when it comes to the Houston Texans? And I know this isn't an absolute statement, but it does kind of feel like over the course of the last couple of weeks, last few weeks, maybe, there's been kind of a defeated attitude, which I actually kind of understand and I actually kind of support because it's become very apparent the last few weeks, to me at least, and I've been wrong before many a times, that this Texans team right now, like in the big scheme of things, this 2024 Texans team is a lot like teams of the past, where you're going to host the first playoff game. Maybe you win that first playoff game, but outside of that, it doesn't feel like you're seeding or your ceiling, I should say, is very high. That's funny, Britton. Shout out to you. Not an Asana, but it does feel like when you came into this season, you were talking about making a run, AFC Championship game, and now it feels like it's just kind of like, this is Bill O'Brien's Texans. This is the noon Saturday playoff game. This is the same old stuff that we've gotten used to when it comes to the Texans. And it feels like there's a little bit of disappointment and perhaps there's a little bit of acceptance, potentially of reality, that this Texans team, while long term you have a lot to feel good about. You feel good about DeMeco Ryans. You feel good about CJ Stroud. Obviously, they're going to have to evolve. But despite that, in the short term, it just feels kind of helpless. It just feels kind of familiar. And let's be honest, this has been a mediocre franchise for 2 decades. Nick Jones says it was way exciting. Now we know we probably aren't beating Baltimore and KC, and that's par for the course for this team. It sucks. Yeah, and I think that's short term. Brandon says that with all the injuries from the last 3 games in 11 days, why would we risk the starters on the field for no gain? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't think DeMeco Ryan should play the starters. So I actually agree with you on that. I don't know what the point of that would be. Um, but I've given up in the trying to figure out what DeMeco Ryans is going to do business. I don't know what he is or isn't going to do. But you and I agree. I would not play the starters. That would not be the route that I would go when it comes to that. So I agree with that. D Ware says OG Landry. Don't know what that means. I don't think Ryans will play the starters the whole game. I wouldn't play Joe Mixon and Nico Collins at all. But that's just me. I wouldn't play those at all. McNair's got to be making them play. Can't get swept by the Titans. That's pathetic. If first of all, I don't think that would happen. But if that was on their mind, then they're no better than Amy Adams Stank from Tennessee. They're no better than that. We'll get to Aziz Al-Shaair's post in a second. I thought it was interesting, and he's actually supposed to talk on Wednesday, which is New Year's Day. That's during the college football playoff. I know I'm at pretty much every practice, but I don't know about that. I might just let Cody be the be the boots on the ground um, for that. We'll get to Aziz's post in a sec. I thought it was interesting. I thought it said a lot of things. I thought it kind of confirmed some of that. Someone says the McNairs isn't good ownership. I think they're pretty good. I don't have anything against them. Are they wearing the Oilers jerseys against us? No, they're not. No Sting, no Lassiter, no Mixon, no. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm in the ice up crew as well. Pittsburgh's a winnable game. You ask if Pittsburgh's banged up, they're very, very much banged up. Is Pittsburgh the ideal opponent? I would say yes. I would say Pittsburgh. If the goal is to win in round one, Pittsburgh's the ideal opponent. DeMeco knows Russell Wilson really well. He's the worst. He's probably the worst quarterback in the AFC playoff picture. They don't have a lot of weapons. They have very few weapons. TJ Watt can wreck a game, but when it comes to that, I think if the goal is to win a game, I would say yes, Pittsburgh uh, is the best option. Let's get into this Aziz statement that he put out, talking about his meeting with the NFL. This is from Aziz Al-Shaair, and it is a long, very long statement. Let's read this from Aziz. He said the following. First of all, I want to praise Allah for everything because both the good and the bad are all great. If it was God's plan for me to go through any situation, then it was for my benefit in some way, even if I can't see or understand it. Second, I want to thank my loved ones, true friends, family, all the players, coaches, and fans. Thank you to the entire Houston Texans organization, from Cal and Hannah to Nick Casario and DeMeco, and anyone in the media who sent me any type of positive feedback or defended my character, along with my attentions on my behalf. Uh, while so many jumped at the first opportunity to hop on the false narrative that I'm a dirty player, a bad person, the messages from all who stood by me were the only things keeping me mentally afloat during the time of isolation. And that's why I said, when he said he wanted to be the villain, I didn't think that that was something that you really needed to embrace, because I never thought that was what he wanted. And I think he's kind of confirming that. I've learned so much from this entire experience. Seeing myself on video, letting my emotions get the best of me to the point where I completely lost it was an embarrassing and eye-opening moment for me. I've had to earn everything in my life. He has. He's had a crazy path. I never want to allow anyone to get me to a point where I jeopardize everything that I've worked all my life to obtain. That was not the way I want to represent myself or family, and I will continue to learn and grow from that moment. During my suspension, I was able to meet with Commissioner Goodell, Troy Vincent, John Runyon, among others, to meet for the first time. First time. So that's what's crazy, is they didn't meet, they didn't talk to him, and he was meeting them for the first time, and expressed the way I felt about how I was characterized in the letter sent out from the NFL. And again, we talked about that, how that was what pissed off the Texans. I have a ton of respect for those at the league office and the responsibility they have to uphold for player safety. Without going into detail, the meeting we had was productive and gave me hope for moving forward and playing the game that I love with continued best intentions, while also not having my character and integrity smeared. In that conversation, man to man, I owned and acknowledged that my actions following my ejection were careless. And in that moment, I didn't think about the responsibility I have been blessed with to represent the Shield. I also stated that the letter, and specifically the language used in the letter, was equally as careless, and conveyed that the context of the words used were not a reflection of my character nor my career, as I have not been warned multiple times for my play on the field. See, and this we were all over this. Like I don't want to pat us on the back. Um, but we were all over this. The letter was what he was pissed at, and the I said the way that he acted afterwards was borderline insane. He looked like a psycho. So I think we were all over this. Continuing. Instead, the intended context of the letter referred to me pulling away from my coach after my ejection and starting another altercation. The play was a bang bang play that by rule and definition was a foul that I own, but it was not done in bad sportsmanship or ill intent. It's not me versus John Runyon or me versus league officials. We're all on the same team and together represent something much greater than us that will remain here long after we're gone. So, where I am privileged enough to represent the game I love, I'll do my best to do so. I'll do my best to do so the right way and trust they will as well. Lastly, I'll say that this world is full of negative people who can't wait to tear you down. But if you move with love and compassion, the seeds of good you planted in others' lives can grow into the very tree that shades you with comfort and compassion when you need it most. I'm a man of God. I'm a leader, a warrior, and a lover. I'm also a hell of a football player, and I'm grateful to be back doing what I love. The end. It was long as hell. Um, but I thought it was well done by him, and we'll see what happens with Al-Shaair. We'll see what it looks like. Maybe he doesn't play, um, and we'll check that out. So good for Aziz for putting that out there. Um, Pretty long, borderline essay, but good for him. Um, Another thing that kind of emerged today was the CJ Stroud, Jayden Daniels debate. I saw this one kind of had Texans Twitter going a little bit nuts. I guess Teddy Bruschi said that Jayden Daniels was better. He said that the words he used were not even close, which I mean, literal, it blows it away or whatever. And it obviously led to a lot of Texans fans, a lot of people saying that CJ Stroud had a better rookie season in 2023 than Jayden Daniels in 2024. Me and Cody Stutes will get into this a little bit tomorrow. I I don't disagree that Jayden Daniels is having a better rookie season. And I don't that's not to minimize what CJ Stroud has done. Um, but I don't disagree with that. Uh, CJ has more yards per attempt. He has more yards per game, 273 to 20. He has fewer interceptions, slightly less touchdowns. Jayden Daniels has won more games. And I think the biggest difference is there's not much of a gap in passing. And Jayden Daniels has rushed for 864 yards. Look, I know there's a tendency when we talk about quarterbacks to minimize running the ball, but when you're running for 900 yards in 16 games, that doesn't get minimized. So that shouldn't be minimized at all. And we're not talking about a guy who has no ability to throw. We're talking about a guy who, again, has a higher completion percentage. He has a higher QBR and he has a higher rating. And I have no problem saying that. I think it's a really, really good season that CJ Stroud had last year. I think Jayden is overtaking it. And the legs are something. Uh, that's not something that you ignore. That's an extra element. That's an elite trait. Why would you minimize an elite trait and just look at the passing numbers? I have no problem with it. And I don't care if CJ played less games or not. That doesn't matter. I'm not even looking at yards per game. Um, Yards per game, passing yards are one of the most overrated statistic that there is. It's a lot of times that's the receiver, a lot of times that's something else. But I'm going on the per game basis. CJ has more passing yards per game. He has the yards attempt, all that. Uh, Jayden has a better completion percentage. He has a better rating. He has a better QBR, and he's running for 900 yards. Now, is that sustainable? Don't know. But what Washington's doing in really a tougher division too, for being honest. I know Dallas and the Giants are trash, but the Texans had two teams that were trash in their division last year, and they had the Colts. I think Jaden's having a better rookie year. Nothing wrong with that. Um, but I'm not going to minimize an elite trait. Really, not even an elite trait, a historic trait that Jayden Daniels has, and take away the running, especially when it's not like he's like some sort of out of touch passer. So I think Jayden Daniels is doing a hell of a job. I think CJ did a hell of a job. But when you're talking about 900 yards rushing, I don't think that gets minimized. He's 20th in the league in the NFL in rushing, and his efficiency I think is in the top 10 in most areas. Does Jayden have a better surrounding cast? His offensive line sucks. I actually saw Dieter yesterday doing his thing. He has scary Terry McLaurin. And then I guess you can say they probably have better running backs than the Texans did last year. They have Zach Ertz. I mean, there's probably a pretty big gap between Zach Ertz and Dalton Schultz, but Dalton Schultz is 13 million. Zach Ertz is 2. We didn't even know how Zach Ertz was hanging around. And then they just have some random guys making plays. Jamison Crowder scored 2 touchdowns last week. Like, the guy's doing his thing. And he's a really, really, really good player. And someone says that the Bears missed again with the Caleb Williams thing. It might be too early for that. I do wonder like what they would do in a redraft. But yeah, this could be the same thing where last year there was talk about, Bryce Young going number 1 and CJ going number 2. The Texans got the better guy. Think that's still true. Although Bryce is kind of bouncing back and they're going to start being able to surround him with assets now that they're getting their draft picks and they actually have draft equity. And same thing with Jayden Daniels. You can really make a case that Drake May is playing better than Caleb at certain times. And supporting cast in the league. The Patriots suck in every area. And you also have the Dan Quinn DeMeco factor. So we'll see how it goes. I just don't like it's you don't have to wave the flag like of wine to minimize what Jayden Daniels is doing. I think it's kind of crazy. He's breaking records. He's trying to do something. But yeah, I would agree with Teddy Bruschi with like a little less dramatic and say like blows it away. I think it's clearly better what Jayden Daniels is doing. Do I think that Jayden Daniels is going to be a better quarterback than CJ Stroud? I don't know. I mean, they're both probably in the same tier. Like let me put it this way. Let's just ask the question here. And this is like there's been a weird like don't criticize CJ movement. And we know we know that his surroundings aren't good. But this is how I would phrase the question. I'll get to that in a sec. First, let's go to the super. Doyle says, saying it again, DeMeco needs to become an actual head coach and not just a DC with an HC title. I mean, he's really. I was talking about this with Stutes today, just on the phone. Like the offseason, like criticizing the offseason, the decision to bring back the offensive coordinators, the coaching staff, the offensive line, the position guys. It doesn't look great now. And you probably would have liked a little more churning, specifically on the skill position depth at running back and wide receiver. But it's not like it was like a monumental mess up. But in season, like from the way that he's talked about the offense, from the way they've handled the offense, from the way that the offense has been prepared, it is so disproportionate to where you do wonder, how DeMeco is going to evolve there. I don't think it's like I don't think any rational person is out on DeMeco or out on CJ Stroud. But I do think that's fair to say about DeMeco that he clearly leans defense in many ways. I think that's absolutely fair to say. A1 says, what are the chances the Texans come out like last year with everything clicking? Are you talking about in the playoffs? Or are you talking about? I guess you're talking about the playoffs. They could play a good game. They could make a playoff run. Like I wouldn't. I mean, the defense is good. It hurts that you don't have Petrie or Jimmy Ward, but I mean, this defense is good enough and it has enough playmakers. And DeMeco's a good enough defensive guy to where they can make a run. They can win a couple of playoff games. I mean, I would I bet on it? No, but I don't. I'm not dismissing that. CJ Stroud being able to take advantage of his opportunities, Mixon and Nico balling out, and the defense making plays. I'm not completely dismissing that. I'm not betting on it, but I wouldn't dismiss it. Back to the CJ thing though, and be sure to subscribe to SNL, subscribe, like, right along. Best Texans coverage in the country. I don't know what company I'd be talking about. If y'all can't tell, I got a little bit cold. Too much travel for me. Um, Honestly, holidays kind of wearing my ass out. I went and saw that Bob Dylan movie tonight. Kind of sucked. I mean, it was all right. It wasn't bad. It was just, it wasn't like a Ray or some of the other movies, that Johnny Cash joint they had a while ago. It was just kind of all right. Um, but here's what I would say to you to anyone that is up in arms about, oh my God, Jayden Daniels did not have a better rookie season than CJ Stroud. First of all, you're crazy. I mean, you don't minimize all-time elite traits. That's weird. Like I got into it with some weasel today on the online, and it was like, well, you have to decide what you value, running or no. Why do I have to decide? I have to decide. I hate when you talk with someone and they tell you what you can and can't do. You can't say, but let me get the rule book before we talk about it. But you're not deciding anything, especially when the gap isn't that big. And he ended up kind of rephrasing it, but he maintained the same pissy, delusional tone when he was doing it. But I digress. Here's the question I would ask when it comes to the Jayden Daniels CJ Stroud thing. And maybe Slowick has killed CJ's confidence. Slowick sucks this year. He's terrible. He's awful. They need to get rid of him. Okay. He's not Cliff Kingsbury. And that's the other thing that kind of sucks about this is you interviewed Cliff Kingsbury and you ended up going with Slowick. And I'm sitting here saying that Jayden Daniels had a better rookie season than CJ Stroud. And really, I don't think CJ's any worse with Cliff Kingsbury. And I damn sure don't think Jayden Daniels is better with Bobby Slowick. So it matters who your coach is. I know I'm not breaking news there, but it matters who your coach is. And he has that advantage. Damn it, Bobby. Yes. But my question would be this: like, if it's just like so insane to think that Jayden Daniels had the better rookie season, which he did. Which company do you think CJ Stroud is closer to right now? 2 years into his tenure, and we all agree that Bobby Slowick has been terrible. We all agree that the skill position guys aren't as good as they probably should be, although they weren't last year either with this awesome rookie season that we're talking about. We all agree the offensive line sucks, but all those things were the same last year. Maybe as time's gone on, teams have got up to it. But what company do you think CJ Stroud is closer to? Do you think that CJ Stroud is closer to the company of Jayden Daniels, like if we're ranking quarterbacks, or do you think he's closer to like the Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen tier? That answer is easy. That answer is easy, and that's not permanent. Jayden Daniels could fall off next year. He could have a rough He could have a rough go. The Texans could surround CJ Stroud better stuff. Sports are fluid. What's true today is not true tomorrow. But just realize, don't act like Jayden Daniels is some lightweight. He's had a better rookie season, in my opinion, and he's closer to the company of CJ Stroud than CJ Stroud is to this elite company that we were talking about him getting to. I don't even know how that's deniable. So that would be another thing that I think we should take into account, is that that's who we're talking about next year. Like next year, when we go into the season, we're talking about this company. It's not going to be the top tier guys. It's going to be CJ Stroud right here looking up. It's going to be the top guys. And then it's going to be CJ Stroud with Jayden Daniels, with they're going to be looking up at Burrow too, with Jayden Daniels, with Justin Herbert, with Bo Nix. Like they're going to all be like all in a group. Like he's closer to Bo Nix right now, CJ Stroud, with the way he's performing, than he is Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Yeah, and Brock Purdy. I mean, that's not even an insult. That's where we're at. So there's a lot of reasons why, but that would be my question. Just tell me like what is so insulting about CJ Stroud having a worse season than a guy who's won all those games with a bad franchise, broke a record for the most rushing yards. He's adding a completely different element, and the passing isn't that bad. Just don't think it's that bad. So I don't think that's crazy to say, uh, at all, at all. Is this team any different than the BOB Texans? That was a question that I asked earlier. I would say yes, because long term you feel pretty good about them. Although you can make a case that in 2018, 2019, you felt pretty good about the future as well. Kind of a unique situation. They kind of it kind of went tumbling down, but it does feel like there's that the apathy of the noon Saturday game. Why are we even playing in the playoffs? It does feel like that's returned, which means the answer to the earlier question, is the DeMeco and CJ Stroud honeymoon phase over? That answer would be yes, and I would say that that's a good thing, because that means that there's expectations. So they created the expectations. They being CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. You're not always going to reach your expectations, but you feel pretty good about where they are and where things are headed. So we'll see how this whole thing goes. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. It's going to be fun. Will DeMeco play the starters? The answer is, I hope not. But I've gotten out of the figuring out what the hell DeMeco Ryans is going to do. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to listen to and watch SNL tomorrow morning. I'm going to get my ass home as soon as I can tomorrow. Be back in the studio to enjoy the new year. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through.